Welcome back to Undulations. This is my second video about the Craft Synth 2.0 from Modal Electronics. I was thinking about how to start this video, and I just bought that game Tokyo Highway, so I thought, well, I'll make a little scene from the parts and that'll be cool. Then maybe I'll get a honking horn or something like that. I wanted a reverb with it, so I got out the MultiStomp from Zoom, but started finding all these other nice sounds and things that I liked. And so I really want to say this combo, Craft Synth and MultiStomp, is very powerful. And the whole thing makes me think, well, if I ever had to maybe do a soundtrack for an animation or something like that, and only had a limited amount of time or space, or just wanted sort of the artistic constraint of using a simple set of things, this combo is really nice. So anyway, this is the 25th episode of Undulations, and I feel like that's kind of a milestone. And for those of you that have been watching, really want to thank you. And I'm gonna just dive into the Craft Synth. The plan today is to just take a look at sound design on the Craft Synth, using the knobs, nothing fancy, just try and maybe make a pad or something like that. And then off camera, I might make a few more sounds, and then let's put them all together, probably in Ableton, and make a track to close it out. So that's kind of the plan. Next week, I'm going to be talking about this, which is the Nano Garden from Folk Tech Electronics. It's really cool. Just wanted to dedicate a little bit of time to how it works and what it is. And then for the following Craft Synth video, so that'll be in 2 weeks, I want to start introducing the Modal app. I want to get into things like how you design a patch from the app, or how you play the device from the app. And I want to make the point that a lot of times you buy something and maybe it's got an app, but you don't have that device or whatever. I feel like Modal has done a good job of trying to get things covered where that you can do it on iOS or Mac OS or on Windows. So I think that's really cool. Anyway, let's get into making a pad. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is navigate to a new preset. Let's go to bank number 8. I'm in bank 1. I just push down and it wraps around to bank 8. Now I'm going to load preset number 1. And currently that sounds like this. What I'm going to do is hold preset and then plus and minus, push plus and minus to initialize it. Okay, so the initialized sound is this. And I've got things color-coded here to sort of give you an idea of the grouping. There's filter in green, the envelope, attack, decay, sustain, release is in yellow. That's the volume. LFO is in orange. And then a lot of the wave parameters are in pink. Let's focus on those for now. The important thing to realize is that there are 2 waves, wave 1 and wave 2, and the mix is controlled by the mix knob up here. And the initialized sound is initialized all the way to wave 1. So you've got that tone in wave 1, but you've also got the same tone in wave 2. So they are different. Think of wave 1 as the carrier, more or less, and then wave 2 as more of a modulating wave. And so I want to go into how you can select those waves and also how they interact. Okay, so if I have wave 1 playing and then rotate the wave 1 parameter, you can tell that there's a change in the waveform, and I want to show you where that is in the manual. Right now we're listening on wave 1 to bank 1, which is called virtual analog, and I'm not sure how clear this is, but it's a basically a set of waves starting with a sine, triangle, truncated triangle to square to a sawtooth. And even though those are the only waves and there are only 8 spots for the dial, 8 indicating lights for the dial wave 1, the manual says that there are 32 different transitional settings between those waves. So as I do this, we're moving between those. And so that set of waves is considered a bank, and wave 1 can have 8 different banks that you can choose from. And so the manual describes what the different waves are what the different waves are like. I want to use the formant wave set on wave 1. So to do that, I have to hold preset down and then change bank 1 to the 6th LED. So that's right there. Now we have this. And so that's the formant, much more voicey type sound. Okay, so I've made a change to wave 1 by selecting a bank of waves, and I've shown you how the wave knob can control which wave in the bank you're looking at. You can also use the spread knob to make a unison change to that. Starts off subtle and then becomes a chordal thing. So that's sort of the way that you can control the wave in wave 1. Wave 2 is somewhat different in that you can, for one thing, select not just 8, but a 9th bank, which is a sine plus noise transition. All right, I need to change the mix over to wave 2. So there's that. So we can do a transition from noise to a sine tone. And then if I want to hear all of this, I can set the mix to the middle. And so then we'll be hearing wave 1 plus wave 2. So that's formant and noise. Turn the spread is down, but you can apply it to all of it. Okay, and then another way that wave 2 differs from wave 1 is in terms of tuning. And I'm going to hold the shift key down with my thumb and tune this knob, the wave 1 knob, which is actually just the fine tuning control. So you can hear that, and then maybe this is an easier way to do it. You can hear that there's tuning that you can do. On wave 2. So wave 2 is your way to add in subs or other types of intervals between wave 2 and wave 1. So to review, and I hope this is all fairly clear, that the mix controls how much of each that you have. Wave 1 selects which wave within the bank, and then you can choose the bank for bank 1, and then same for wave 2, where you can select the wave or the bank. The spread, or the sort of unison thing, that influences both of the waves, but the fine tuning and the actual step tuning, which I think goes plus or minus 4 octaves, that applies to wave 2. So there's a lot of control Now, the one thing that I've left out is that if we go over to just wave 1, and we don't have any oscillation modulation. So the shift and then this parameter, what this is going to do is cause an interaction between the two waves. And so now when I hold a note down and change wave 2, you can hear it in wave 1. Now, that is a lot going on where that you've got a lot of control over wave 1, a lot of control over wave 2, and then can control the depth of how much they interact. But there is more where that you can change the synthesis type by holding the preset button and then changing the mix knob. I'm just going to shift. There are actually 16 different interaction types or modulation types, and so I've just picked another one. We'll hear how it sounds. What is the modulation? Type 3. So here's one with ring modulation, and again, this is just wave 1, wave 2, and how they're interacting together. And if you think about it, you've got 8 banks over here, you've got 9 banks over here, so that's sort of 72 different configurations. But then add to that the 16 different types of synthesis that you can use to combine them, and it's something over 1,000 different types of wave configurations that you can do on this. So a lot of different sounds that you can get out of this synthesizer. So this is their de-res effect. I'm going to change to a different wave bank. For 2, we'll go to something like that. Okay, so there's a lot you can do to get something like this set up, and then you can also start playing with the cutoff to sort of down select some of the frequencies. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it in this video about the LFO, but you can also use the LFO to target something like, say, the cutoff, and give a modulation depth to it, and set a rate. And shape of the LFO. So that's LFO changing the cutoff there, and that combined, that sort of thing, LFO can be targeted to any of the parameters on here pretty much. And there's also a second LFO, and there's the midi, which allows you to use the envelope to modulate some of the parameters as well. So it's a lot of different modulation sources and a lot that you can do to sculpt the sound. I'm gonna right now work on that pad, and to start that I'm just gonna try and get a attack and decay that I like. And I'm gonna make the LFO depth a little bit less. Okay, and I don't want to gloss over the way that the envelope stuff is done. If you're new to synths, this can be a lot to take in. It's pretty intuitive, I have to say, but the way this works is that you can choose the way an envelope influences the filter or the amplitude or the extra modulation of other parameters. And the way that you cycle, this is a little bit strange to me, but it's just actually a single button. And if you push this, it cycles between which of the three that you're actually controlling from the ADSR knobs. But one thing you can do is hold the button down, and then changes that you make actually influence all three of the different envelopes. So right now, I've got a little bit of unison, some nice waves, and I feel like this pattern that I've got is pretty nice. And so last thing on our run through of just making a single sound is that you want to save your preset. And so to do that, you hold preset and then you make sure to hold this button that you're on, or if you want to save it to a different slot, you can. And that means we saved it. And then I also have done some other presets. Let me go down to up to bank 8 and get preset number 2. So that's my just first cut at a kick drum on here, and then number 3, sort of a snare. Sort of an unstable bass, then a lead, and I think that's meant to be closed hat, and I think just a percussion. Okay, so I've got some sounds to work with, and what I'm going to do is use Ableton to MIDI control the device. And one easy way to do that is to just use the USB cable. Instead of just powering the synth, you can plug it into your computer, and then Ableton will be able to send MIDI to it. I'm going to then record the sounds from the Craft Synth back into Ableton, and then we'll hear the final result after I do the outro. So I feel like I know a lot more about the Modal Craft Synth 2.0 at this point. It's a very deep machine. In this video, I've focused mainly about the ways that the waveforms interact, and one thing in the manual they were very clear about is that some of the synthesis modulation methods are more subtle than others. So that's something that is going to take some time to explore. The other thing is that the LFO and the other forms of modulation, those are a way to get a lot of rich and varied sounds. And there are other things that are only available in the app as modulation sources, like velocity and aftertouch. And so these are the types of things that I want to go into on the next video. I've got this handful of sounds that we've made. I'm going to use MIDI to trigger them on the Craft Synth and then record that in Ableton Live. I'll be doing that one preset at a time, so that's one track at a time, and then merge them all together for the final result. So hope you enjoy that, and I hope you've enjoyed this video as well. So thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you in the next one.